This is Vampire Survivors. This game was brought to my attention by somebody at work. It might have been Matthew. I'm not sure who it was, but somebody at work told me this game was cool, and so I tried it out. And guess what? It is, and I want to share it with you. It's one of these games where it's clearly very simple. This is the kind of game that if you're an aspiring game developer, this is the kind of thing that I think you should be able to find very inspirational, because clearly this game, I don't know how it was made, but it clearly could be made using very simple tools, with very sort of like entry level skills. You can make a game that is kind of like this. And so, when people, there's a lot of people who they aspire to be game developers and they look at like huge games like Grand Theft Auto 5 and they're like, oh man, I want to make something like that. And you can, but when you're first starting out and you're first, like building the skills in the portfolio that you want, in order to break into the industry, or show people what you can do, this is actually the kind of game that you should be thinking about. What can you make on your own using very simple tools to show how clever you are, and that's what they've done here. It's like they've actually, this is a game where the thing that's interesting about it isn't all the things it lets you do; it's the things it chooses not to let you do, and how that changes your strategy. And I'll let you know what I mean as we get into this. So I'm using a controller. So this is a gauntlet-like game, and just like a lot of old school games, um, it's basically, it's the kind of game you don't really build up a lot of persistent stuff. I think you've got unlockable characters, but really each time you play the game, you start from scratch, and you slowly level up. And actually, there are unlockables, because I think actually Peachone here, or is it Peach One? I don't know. I don't know what you call this thing. That's a new, that's a new skill I haven't seen before. So I must have unlocked that. So the thing that you might not be able to recognize just from watching the screen is I am not pushing a button to attack. The only control that I have is moving my character around and orienting my character. That's it. So I started with just my whip, which I, periodically will whip bats with. And so I try to arrange myself so that when I inevitably attack, the attack actually hits something that I care about. And then I add it, so when I collect enough of this blue crap that I get for killing enemies, and I can't just kill enemies, I have to collect the blue crap, that unlocks new abilities. Okay, a cross. I've never seen a cross before either. So you can see that now there's this cross boomerang that comes off me. And so each of these attacks is aimed differently. So my whip goes out, in the direction that I'm facing, but only laterally. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down, it doesn't go diagonally, it only goes left or right. Meanwhile, the bird has got this targeting circle that orbits around me, and it fires periodically. When it fires, it just fires randomly inside that circle. Meanwhile, the cross looks like it's targeting enemies by itself, and it's like homing in on enemies, and it's like going after one enemy and then coming back. And so basically you end up piling up a bunch of different weapons that are all doing different things at the same time. And a lot of what's satisfying about this game is sort of trying to just maneuver the enemies so that they are underneath your sort of damage volume. And you can sort of try to kill them in as many numbers as you possibly can. So that blue bat, by the way, I can't even tell if it's possible to kill it. I've tried to kill it many times, and I've never noticed myself succeeding at killing the blue bat. It might be unkillable. It might just be the Eternabat. Oh, crap! So, you got a health bar, and if enemies hit you... So, there is a point you can get to where those giant swarms of bats are actually a target-rich environment for you to kill. I'm a little bit scared of them, though. Okay, so, the axe... The axe is weird. Let's look at the axe. So the axe actually has gravity, which is weird because we're not depicting, like, this is not a side scroller. This is a top-down game. I don't know why the axe has gravity, but it does. And it, like, when the axe comes out, it just goes straight down. And so the axe kind of motivates me to move upwards and hover above the enemies, and then have the enemies, like, below me where the axe can hit them. But I can't do that forever because I do need to collect the stuff the enemies drop. Okay, so, the whip. If I've got a second whip, I actually whip in both directions simultaneously. Oh, I picked up a bunch more stuff. Oh, let's increase the damage of the whip, too. So, alright. So you can see now I'm attacking both directions, and notice they didn't reverse the whip animation, or the whatever, the little sprite that represents the whip. They rotated it. They turned it upside down, which, I don't know, for some reason I find that interesting. So one thing I failed to do is move my chat where I can see it. So let's see here. Okay, so Wrath of Vaden says, this game is so fun. I really hope they add more. I'm maxed out on it. So I'm assuming you're talking about this game, and I haven't just been delaying so long that you were talking about State of Decay 2. Because we are adding the State of Decay 2, but I'm pretty sure you're talking about Vampire Survivors. Let's see here. So yeah, so you'll notice the enemies have progressed. It's no longer all bats all the time. Now it's all skeletons. And it keeps being all different things as time goes on. So again, I'm like trying to arrange myself so that my axes are dropping through as many enemies as they can. Can I squeeze in here? So much blue stuff. Ooh, Santa water. I don't know why this is called Santa water. I mean, I assume that means holy water. Like, because Santa means saint, which means sanctified. So I could imagine this being an odd translation from some other language. So I should point out, like, so I talked about how this is the kind of game that could be made with simple tools, and this type of gameplay is accessible to new game developers. I want to not imply, though, that is who made this game, that this was made by new game developers. For one thing, if you look at the sheer number of enemies and how they're animated and put together, the artwork in this game is actually really good. They're going for an old school sort of cheap vibe, but I think that's an intentional choice, and you can clearly see that there is a lot of skill that went into, and a lot of crap that went into making these art elements. So I just want to make sure that I've said that out loud, because I said this game could be, inspirational to people who want to make their first foray into the game industry. I don't want to be like accidentally throwing shade at the people who made this game and calling them amateurs, because they're not. This game does not come across as a game that is amateurishly made. It is very cleverly made, put together by people who, are thinking deeply about game design and know what they're doing. Okay, so we'll grab the magic wand, which fires the nearest enemy. So I'm going for as much variety as I can, so you can just see the weirdness of this game. That basically, because they're not having you fire your weapons manually, that kind of allows them to go nuts with all the weird, different behaviors of the weapons. Because I think, when you have to intentionally do everything in a game, that means you have to really understand how something works before you use it. Or at least you'll have a tendency psychologically to want to understand something fully before you use it. And that actually would make some of the weapons in this game prohibitive. Some of them are weird enough that players would probably just never try them. Except when these weapons are constantly auto-fired, then instead of it being a sense of like you need to know in advance what the weapon can do and you get frustrated if you can't figure it out, instead, this feels like it's something that is like it's an ongoing thing that you're just sort of, I'm not firing these weapons, I'm not controlling them. The weapons are just an ongoing thing that's happening, and I'm sort of vaguely steering it. It's almost like, there's a difference between, like, creating something from scratch and editing something that already exists, modding something that already exists. And it feels like, messing... Oh, my max health goes up. So it feels like there's a lower intimidation factor to sort of tweaking the behavior of something that's acting on its own, versus trying to use something intentionally yourself. And so by making all of the weapons auto-fire, they've actually kind of freed me up to feel more confident using weird weapons, because, whether I'm manually triggering them or not, they're going to be happening. And so, like, I'm just sort of steering myself around and trying to use the weapons well. Okay, so Type Metal has done his research. He says that this game was made by a solo dev from the UK named Luca. So, okay, yeah, so I think that's probably... So you can tell that Luca is clearly very good at 2D art, and that might actually be sort of the foundational skill that they have that has led to them, making this game. I don't know what it takes to kill these green guys. Like, I'm watching them, trying to see if any of them ever die. I don't know if I've actually witnessed one dying yet. But so the Santa water, like when you occasionally see a little what? Oh, did I just freeze everyone? Okay, let's see if I can actually kill a green guy while they're frozen. still don't feel like I've seen one die yet. But yeah, so that's the Santa water, by the way. When you see little bubbles, like the swarm just hit one. Those little bubbles, that is the Santa water. So we got the axes, we got the crosses, we got the boomerangs. Wait, so the crosses are the boomerangs. Sorry, we got the axes, we got the crosses. We've got the whip. We've got the bird. We've got the Santa water. I'm just imagining this is like Santa peed in a bottle, and you're just throwing Santa water at people. Let's grab the clover, just because we never have before. So it says that my character gets 10% luckier. I'm not sure if that means like my damage numbers will be higher more often, or does it mean that like it probably means actually that I'm going to be getting better equipment from drops. That's probably what it is. So most of these drops so far have just either been the blue stuff that fills that bar at the top of the screen and levels me up and unlocks new weapons, or they're money, which collects, you know, see the 20 gold that I've got in the upper right corner of the screen. Actually, you know what? The best place for my head is actually, I just realized, probably the bottom left, because there's no HUD there. Because you can see my sort of accumulated powers in the upper left corner of the screen. I've only got 3 more slots there. I don't know if that means that there's actually a limit to the number of slots I can have, or if they're just going to add a row later on. Ow, they're hitting me. But yeah, so I'm collecting the blue stuff. That's the most important stuff, and actually I'm leaving a lot of it behind right now. I should probably double back and start going over old territory to pick up more blue stuff. But yeah, there's the money. I'm not sure what the money is for, honestly. Yes, okay, so the whip got bigger and more damaging, and I just took some damage myself trying to get through that crowd. But there's also the ability for enemies will sometimes drop treasure chests, which give you, you know, I can't remember if they give you lots of weapons or if they give you more weapon options. But anyway, you can get more weapons from treasure chests. But I haven't seen any treasure chests this round, and I'm not sure why. If it just means that that's something that I unlock later on in the progression, or if there's a particular action that I've done before to make them appear that I just haven't been doing and I haven't figured it out. Okay, so we've got, again, a time skippy thing. Actually, you know what I should do? While they're like this, I should kill as many bats as I can. Oh. The bigger bats are trouble. Okay, I'm taking damage. Ow! Swarm. Yeah, so those swarms are great, especially now that I'm doing enough damage to, like, really annihilate those swarms. They can leave behind a bunch of blue stuff. The problem is getting to the blue stuff with so many other enemies around. Oh, and now we've got the Circle of Thorns? I don't know exactly what this is. They seem to always show up, the flowers around here tend to show up at the same time as a praying mantis. I don't know if they're related or if that's just a coincidence. What's this guy? Oh! Sweet. Okay, yeah, so apparently there's some enemies that drop treasure, and I just have not been killing those enemies until I hit that screen clearing thing. So, this is another event that can happen in the game. You find a treasure chest, and it gives you a bunch of money. Again, not sure what the money is for. And then I got... So did I get 3 magic wands? I guess we'll see how much stuff my magic wand fires. Let's grab the spinach just so we have more things. And then we're just going to pick up all these treasures. So we got a bonus cross, I guess. There's a long pause after that kind of bothers me. Like, I want to make it go away as quickly as I can. So there's another single treasure. Oh, so Wrath of Vaden says that the money is for upgrades for my next run. So I can... Okay, so that's good to know. So basically, so the money is kind of my long-term prize. And the blue stuff is my short-term leveling up prize. So yeah, let's... I don't know. So I could make my whip go up by 5 or everything go up by 10%. How much is 10%? Let's see here. Does it say? I don't think so. So I don't know if this is going to be better or not. Let's grab this because I've got so many different weapons. Something that makes them all better is probably going to be overall a better move than something that just only makes one of them better by a larger amount. More treasure. And we've got more Santa water. Okay, so yeah, let's start seeing if we start seeing more Santa water and larger Santa water. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, so I've been wondering, making sure that I actually was correct, that I was really getting what I thought I was out of those treasure chests. But yeah, it does seem like I did get some Santa water. Because you can see that when Santa water appears, I get 2 piles, and they're larger than they were before. Now I can make them last longer and do more damage. Sure, let's do that. And then let's go get this health pickup. Okay, we got a skeleton flood now. I think... Oh, gosh, I'm surrounded. Okay, I think this is the slightly better route out. Okay. Yeah, so it's really easy to get surrounded and overwhelmed in this game. Once you get past a certain point, like early on, it's pretty manageable, but later it's potentially disastrous. And the thing is, I'm killing so many enemies who I can't reach. Like, I can't reach their, the stuff they drop. So I am kind of relying a lot. Actually, I'm glad I grabbed that Santa water. I'm relying a lot on the Santa water to make holes for me to pass through that are a little further away from me than my whip. Okay, here we go. Screen clearer. Boom! Okay, let's collect as much blue over here as I can. Ooh, wings? Oh, my character can move faster. And a crown, more experience. Or my magic wand going up by 10. I've got a bunch of magic wand. That might actually be more valuable. Being able to do more damage to these enemies, so let's collect as much of this garbage as I can. So I think, you know, these have, like, I think that the bar they're trying to fill gets more and more increments over time. So it takes more and more of this stuff to fill it up. That's good. I mean, it's good that I'm getting surrounded by more enemies, right? Because it's more experience. It would be weird if in real life experience was delivered in the form of crystals. Alright. So yeah, so if you were looking at this game early on and thinking, oh, it's kind of slow, you're moving around kind of slowly, the enemies are approaching kind of slowly, I don't know. It gets intense, right? After a little while. Okay, more Santa water out on the territory. Does sound good. The axe is doing more damage, though. The axes are pretty powerful. Let's go more Santa water. One thing that's weird is, like, usually my inclination in a game like this is like, oh yeah, make my primary weapon more powerful is like the easy choice. This game does not make anything like that an easy choice. Ooh, more Pichone, or whatever this is. Chance to get lucky up 10%. What does that mean? Is that like how often those screen clearers appear? Is that how often treasure chests appear? I don't know what it means. Let's do more Pichone. And, oh, I guess more spinach. Oh, wow. And more Santa water? Oh, wait, no. All cooldowns reduced. That sounds good. But yeah, so I'm impressed by this game's ability to really, like, every time one of those choices comes up, like, do you want this or this? I'm genuinely challenged by it. Like, there's a lot of games where, you know, oh, what was that game where you were defending a town against this onslaught of, like, demonic monsters, and you were, like, leveling up your characters over time. Why have I forgotten the name of that game? The reason I'm thinking about the game, though, is because, you know, in the character progression of that game, as much as I love that game, in the character progression, I always felt like, oh, that went really badly. I always felt like there was just a handful of upgrades that I always wanted. And so, like, the choice was just basically, oh, this is terrible. Okay, sure, max health increase. Why not? So please, please let me get to a place where I have dropped a turkey. Again, the problem is the food drops by the enemies, which means I have to go back to where the enemies were, where I'm fleeing the enemies at all times. I had to go back to where they've been before in order to get health power-ups. And oh no, I have melted! Okay. So, I have been squished. But yeah, so there were only a handful of upgrades that I always wanted every single time, and most of the upgrades were wasted on me. And so, I mean, and I'm sure that there are strategies that those other upgrades work for, but it wasn't really easily, like, readily apparent to me why I wanted them. But this game does a really great job of, like, everything that I'm getting in this game is something that I feel like I want. Like I genuinely, I'm never like, well, obviously I should grab this thing. Part of it is because it's a little bit mysterious how everything works, but despite that mystery, like everything does feel like it's important. It all feels like it's effective, and that's a really hard thing to achieve. And so that's the thing that I think, that this developer of this game should be very proud of, is the fact that like they haven't just made, oh well, there's obviously a thing I should choose every single time. Like it's a really interesting array of different upgrades for me to grab from. So yeah. Oh, so Typed Metal says, "Well, I bought the game." Yeah, exactly right. But I should mention it's only like $3. Like this game is very, very inexpensive. And so if this kind of just like, just sort of, it is. I don't want to call it mindless, because mindless feels like it's pejorative. This is a fun game, but there's a sort of it only requires you to think about one thing. Like you only really need to sort of like be moving your character around, and it leaves a lot of your brain free to think about other stuff. So it's the kind of game that you can fit into other times in your life, really, really straightforwardly. Like I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they did like a mobile version of this game, because it's so easy to control, with very, very sort of simple inputs. Oh, so Wrath of Vaden says that actually this game gets more interesting than I even realized. They say, I didn't want to spoil what the combos are, but there are combos to upgrade weapons to a special weapon, but you need the combo to get it. Interesting. Oh, Type Metal points out there actually is already a mobile version of this game. I just didn't know about it. So great. I'm going to have to look it up. The mobile platform might actually be a better place for me to play this game than on PC. So I'm going to quit this, but then I've completed some new achievements. And achievements unlock stuff. So now there's going to be more stuff that's going to be dropping on me during my next game, because of the stuff that I did, like reaching level 20 in the Mad Forest, etc. The Lightning Ring. Okay, see, it's like there's even more interesting stuff out there that I haven't even discovered yet. So yeah, so I don't know how combos work. Apparently there's a reason for me to keep playing this game and keep discovering more and more about it, because there's combos to unlock. I imagine at some point I'm going to unlock my first combo, and that will help me to understand what that means. Because right now, I appreciate Wrath of Vaden not spoiling it, because sometimes games like this, a lot of the time, just discovering how all of the mechanics work is a really important part of the enjoyment of the game. So I appreciate that. So yeah, so this game, Wrath of Vaden, attests that this game gets even more interesting as you go, and you start collecting different weapons and things like that. So I'm really curious how that goes. Oh yeah, so Cogs, early on, right before we got started with this episode, asked me if I played Gauntlet as a kid. And so I meant to get into that actually, because I don't know, it's just one of my favorite memories as a child was I was at I was visiting family in Utah with my dad and my sister. I think it might have. Yeah, so it was me and my dad and my sister. We went on a walk. My grandparents, whose house we were staying at, was really close to a mall. And I think I was probably like 6 years old at the most, maybe 7 years old. And so we took a long walk to this mall. And it was a really kind of memorable trip, because I remember the mall had these like sloping walls on the side, and my dad used to run up the walls and back down again. And I was like, it's like he was defying gravity, and I thought he was going to die. And it was amazing that he could do it. And so like that ingrained itself in my memory. And then on that same trip to the mall, we went to a video arcade, and my dad went and talked to somebody. He's like, my kids and I want to play Gauntlet, but we don't want to. I've got like $50 I want to spend on us playing Gauntlet together. So we just gave the guy $50, and the guy just opened up the machine and like hit the button that gives you credits. He hit it like way more times than $50 would actually give you. He gave us like maximum starting health for all of us, and then we sat there for like an hour or something playing Gauntlet together with my, I think I was Thor, my sister was Valkyrie, and my dad was Elf, I think, and we just played so deep into that game. And the way that Gauntlet works is you've got health that is constantly ticking down. And so the more, and so you have to go. I think you can find health pickups in the world, but you can also take damage from enemies. But they always have your health ticking down, so that you eventually, even no matter how good you are at the game, you'll eventually run out. You'll eventually have to stick quarters in. So the fact that we were able to play so far into Gauntlet without ever needing to put quarters in as young children, it was just a really sort of cool opportunity. So like sort of remained with me as one of my foundational gaming memories, as is playing co-op Gauntlet with my dad and my sister. So anyway, so when you brought up Gauntlet, Cogs, I just wanted to tell that story, and so this game felt like an appropriate place to tell it, because this is very Gauntlet like. You're surrounded by enemies, you're just constantly taking damage, and you're inevitably gonna succumb, but in the meantime, you're having a great time. Hey, Chris Darker ART showed up. He says, after so many YouTube videos watching your channel, I finally catch your stream. Well, it's really good to have you here. I'm so sorry that you've caught the end of my stream, because I am very, very hungry. I need to get myself fed before my next meeting at 1 o'clock. So despite this being a fun, long lunch break, I am going to have to go. But I'm glad you showed up for this. I'm sorry that I'm so unpredictable. I say this a lot. I'm sorry that my stream is unpredictable. I am trying to work out, how to fit a regular stream into my life, but lately it's just been really hectic, and so I haven't been able to do it. So the best way to catch it is to follow me on Twitch, so you're notified when I go live, or follow me on Twitter, because I do announce each time I go live. Those are good ways to keep up. But yeah, I hope at some point it'll be a little bit more reliable and predictable, so people can plan around it. In the meantime, though, I'm really glad that you were all here. I appreciate it. So I'm only going to play one round of that game, because I think I gave you a good impression of what it is. There's clearly more characters to unlock, as Wrath points out, even more deeper mechanics to unlock over time. So I plan to play more of this game in the future, but I think I've given you enough of a taste, and it's so inexpensive. Like, if you're interested in this kind of game, definitely consider giving it a try. And let's see, did I miss anything? Oh, so Ranithcord says, I had a similar memory. For one of my birthdays, my parents took me and two friends to an arcade that let you buy time cards rather than spending per play. It was super cool. So you just got to have as many credits as you wanted for a certain amount of time. I actually haven't heard of that kind of arcade. That does sound amazing. So that's awesome. It's good to hear. Yeah, so Chris Darker, I'm really glad to have you in the audience. Sorry that it was so limited time this time. And Wrath of Vaden, thank you so much for coming in and giving us some insight into this game, more than I could provide. That was really awesome. So yeah, on YouTube later on, I'll put a subscribe button right there, and I'll put links to other games so you can click on those, and I'm going to go have some food.